Hello, my name is Max. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a company called Likvido. This is actually the second company I have together with Lars, my co-founder. In 2017, I went through the quite painful experience of going bankrupt after spending all my time for a couple of years on a company called Monera. The main reason we went bankrupt was because we scaled very fast, very early, ran out of cash, and mainly actually because we had a lot of customers who didn't pay on time. So that's actually what we do with Likvido. We help companies automate their invoice to cash process to save them a lot of time, because it's a huge administration burden for a lot of companies actually to do accounts receivables, which means sending out invoices, checking who has paid, sending out reminders, all the way to debt collection. So that is actually what we have automized in a simple SaaS solution. And now we're doing a lot of interesting things with the data we get in that way. So actually we're starting now to be able to forecast on each transaction. So each time you send out an invoice, maybe we have seen that customer of yours before, or someone who looks similar. So we are actually starting to be able to predict what's the risk in that transaction. And that means our larger vision is to also be able to offer instant cash. So as soon as you've created an invoice, we want to give you the money. So the whole what we do in Likvido is basically we try to solve the pain we had ourselves in the previous company, which is time. I think most founders or owners of small SMEs don't have all the time they need. So we want to create a couple of extra hours a week. We want to and give them more working capital to grow. So that's basically our purpose. But the big question is, of course, how do you go to market with a product like that? Because it's a new product category. I think there's maybe one person in Denmark a year going to Google, typing in accounts receivable automation tool. So the classic let's buy some AdWords, that didn't work for us. So I'll talk a bit about the whole market and channel fit and how we approach that. In the beginning, when we started, I was sales. I've done sales before. I love sales and marketing. So I started out the classic way on LinkedIn, writing to people, having meetings, contacting people in my network, which meant that I spoke with a lot of very different people. We got one of my friends who had a marketing agency with one employee. The next day I had a meeting with a larger insurance company. We did a project with them. So a lot of different types of companies with a lot of different approaches. But that didn't really scale, because that's not something you can do more of. So what we were forced to do was really to try to narrow down and identify our ideal customer right now. Because there are a lot of people, like 24 slides, everybody who sells on credit can basically use our product. Most companies send out invoices, most companies need to check if their debtors have paid them. Sometimes a customer doesn't pay on time. So basically 90% of customers are in our target group. But again, that's not a market you can address and sell to. So we tried really to narrow down and figure out, okay, who's the perfect customer for us, not in 10 years, but right now. And we decided that should be SMEs, mainly because we have worked with SMEs before. We are an SME ourselves. That's the pain we experienced ourselves before. We don't know a lot about how big enterprises do this. So we had a lot of knowledge about how accounts receivables are handled in smaller companies. So we thought that's a good entry point for us. And then we really did a lot on, how can you narrow that down? Which industries, where's the pain the strongest? In our case, the pain is very strong in markets, or very obvious in markets where you have a lot of customers paying late. So that could be a small marketing agency, that could be a craftsman. And now we have a list of industries where we know these industries are highly relevant. The next criteria we figured out is it's much harder for us to go out to a company who already has a team of bookkeepers who do this today, because then we have to replace them. And they're not that happy about us coming in and automating their job. So the next criteria for us, it's much easier for us to sell this to companies where the owner of the company or the founder or his wife does the bookkeeping himself, because they hate to do it. and they instantly buy the whole idea around having more time for their family or sales or something like that. So for us, it's very specific industries. It's based on number of employees, so smaller companies, where the owner is still doing everything himself. That's basically the criteria. Then we looked at exactly who's that guy and how does he behave and stuff like that. So we spent a lot of time on actually really narrowing that profile down so we could communicate to that very specific person. What we also, and one thing that changed in our mindset was in the beginning, when I did the first business plan, and always when you speak with investors, they will always look for a big market. What's the total addressable market? And that should be as big as possible. And then when you actually start wanting to acquire customers, you do the opposite, because then you want to figure out how much can I narrow this down. And so we went from all people in the world to really, and now I know there are 70,000 companies in Denmark who are in our target group. And those are the people we want to contact. And in a year or something, we'll be finished with them. Or we have the process in place, and then we can do that in the next market, and the next market, and in the next market, instead of trying to sell to enterprise or something. Maybe we'll sell to enterprise in 20 years, but not right now. So on the channel part, so after we basically decided who is this ICP, the ideal customer profile for us, we looked at, okay, where can we address them? How can we find them? And I've worked a lot, and my co-founder Lars has also worked a lot with Facebook and AdWords, all the classical marketing channels. Our problem is just there isn't a filter in Facebook where I can say I want to have a target group with owners who do the bookkeeping themselves and work in these industries. These criteria, like you can't have the filter for who's going to do a presentation tomorrow on Facebook. That's not a filter they have. And the same in Google, there is basically no search for what we do. So that didn't really work. And that's basically the reason we decided to work with inside sales and do other stuff than traditional marketing. But that took a lot of time and money to get to that point. So we spent a lot of time and money on doing AdWords marketing ourselves. Then we thought, okay, we're just not good at this, so we hired agencies to help us. Really great people. It still didn't work. And then in the end, we realized that the main problem is the CPM, the price we pay for an impression, is extremely high if we look at relevant people. Because maybe 1,000 people have seen this ad, but maybe one of them is in the situation where he's a founder or owner of a business who does bookkeeping himself, blah, 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 blah. What doesn't make this easier is another criteria I haven't put in here is the accounting system they use means a lot for us. You get much more value out of our solution if we can integrate to the accounting system. So if you use C5, C5, and an old, not cloud-based accounting system, it's very difficult to integrate, and then the value, the whole experience is not the same. And these smaller companies, we don't do integration projects and stuff like that. It really has to be one click, let's go. And that, again, it really narrows people down into who is actually getting most value out of this. So for us, we looked at where can we find the data, and this is not rocket science, but it's always very clear after if you've done it, but for us it took some time. So we figured out, okay, but all these data, they are public available in the CVR register, and there are lots of great tools you can use to segment. So for instance, in the financial statements you do, in your balance sheet, you have to declare accounts receivables. So we can look at companies who have a lot of accounts receivables, and where the amount of accounts receivables in combination to their revenue or number of employees is higher than an average. That's a pretty good indicator for do they have the pain. We can filter on the industry. So I know now we have approximately 1,400 customers, so I know which industries are they in, who gets the most value, so I can filter on industries. Then we learned that year founded actually means a lot. Because if you found a company now, you will probably not use C5, you will probably use a cloud-based accounting system. So we basically have now a couple of very simple criteria, and based on that we can find these ideal customer profiles, very predictable. And we do that smarter and smarter all the time. Now we're actually at a point where we don't want to become much smarter, because then the target group will become too narrow again. So we have 70,000 companies here in our target group in Denmark. who we are calling twice a year now with a team of 8 SDRs. I'm really not going to spend a lot of time on this, but what we basically do, the classical approach we talked about before, we find their emails and phone numbers and stuff like that. Then we actually use online, because now when we have the email and we know these 70,000 people, then we can do custom audiences, we can do lookalikes, a lot of stuff. We'll also send them some letters. So we do a lot of stuff that supports our inside sales team. So it's not purely inside sales. We try it's much easier for us to convert them if they have seen our logo before, heard about Likvido, something like that. But it's very supportive to the sales approach. We don't close customers online ever. Sometimes we do, but then it's more a referral thing. It's not our top funnel, but it supports the flow. And we spend maybe in total 10,000 DK on this monthly, so it's really not a big thing. We book demos, collect a lot of data, have salespeople who close deals, the very classical thing. The last thing I want to address is that what we also learned doing this is that good salespeople, they want a good salary, and sales is expensive. Our acquisition cost is quite low, but our CAC is around 405 euros. So it's still some money we need to recover or recoup. In the beginning, we had more transaction-based pay-as-you-go thing. And that made it extremely hard for us to predict. And some clients we would make a lot of money. So we have clients where we made more than 50,000 euro last year. And then we have other clients where we made 5 euro. And that makes it extremely hard for us to make compensation plans for salespeople. So we changed our pricing. We increased the price a lot. We did that a couple of times, and we're probably gonna do it again. I think we went from 4,000 DK a year to 7,500, and now we're gonna raise it again. Because the interesting thing is, it doesn't really affect our conversion rates, because if you have the pain, if you are in the target group, you're willing to pay some money for this. If you compare the price here to what it would cost you to hire a bookkeeper to do this, we're still far too cheap. And I think it's really important if you want to succeed with inside sales. Most of us, we need to raise our prices a lot. If you want to succeed with online, I'm not so sure, because then convenience means a lot. We also force people to pay yearly or quarterly upfront, which means we have a positive cash flow in sales. So that allows us basically to grow sales quite organic, because we recover the cost very, 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 very fast. So basically the questions we went through is, who's our ideal customer profile, and how can we narrow that down? On which channels can we identify these people? For us, that wasn't online, that was the CVR register and the phone. We also onboard all clients via the phone, and we also did that before, so it makes a lot of sense, because for us, the sales and the onboarding conversation is the same. We raised our prices. So that's basically the very short summary of what we did. And it works very, very nice.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.